Good morning, gentlemen. In my last video, I had mentioned that India was heading for a caste war, a religious war, based on my observations of what is happening in Manipur. Gentlemen, there have been further developments, and there have been a communal clash in Gurugram, one of the districts of Haryana. I will not go into the details of the clash which you have read about in the newspaper, on the internet, but the question is we have to get to the root cause of what's happening. And basically, the fact remains that both the communities are inimical to each other. In fact, they are something short of enemies. You can even call them enemies. Because individually, everybody is fine, but when there's a mob, well, it's hell let loose. I would like you to have a look at France, before you discuss further about India. Now, France has a minority Muslim population of about 10%. And India has got about 15%, so you have a comparison. But that 10% minority in France held the entire nation to ransom, and ultimately the French had to enforce curfew in 32 cities. So many people died, a church was burnt, and all because of a Muslim youth who had violated a traffic offense was shot by the police. I will say it was the wrong thing to do, but the requirement was that the officer should be punished and not that the entire population should start rioting. The officer should be punished, but not that the entire community starts rioting, burning, and creating arson and noise. But that is the inherent nature of the migrants in France who have not been able to integrate with the population there, with the local French culture, the ethos. So, gentlemen, we have to think that if it couldn't happen in France, do you think it's going to happen in India? I have a question to ask you people. Will the present thought of the minority community assimilate with the aspirations of the Indian Republic? I do not think this is an impossible task, but at the same time I'll say it's very difficult. Because the conditions in France and India are a little different, whereas the French culture is totally alien to the migrants. In India, the local culture is akin to the migrants, the Muslims. It's about the same culture, other than the fact that the religion is different. But that religion is a divide. And that division came in 1947. I think things were pretty okay till that time. And once the British had decided that they wanted to leave India, they decided to divide the country into two. It was like a parting kick, Okay, friend, you taking our ice cream, we're going to give a portion of this ice cream to somebody else. That's what it meant actually. And then the British, the Indian leadership, Gandhi and Nehru, they played in the hands of the British. They appointed Mountbatten as the first Governor General. There was no need. You should have so many Indians available. And there was no need of being a Dominion for 3 years and having a Governor General who was responsible to the king. So it was not a freedom won. I remember reading a report by Justice Curfew of the Supreme Court, and he had said, this is a freedom which was sort of a semi-freedom gifted by the British. Nobody fought for it. Freedom is something that you fight for, like in a revolution, the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, Chinese Revolution, the American Revolution. We don't have any revolution, nothing. So I will just say that this division in 1947 and the subsequent rioting and killing, I think hundreds and thousands died, nobody has the figures, and one should venture and give any figures. The one can say that massive deaths took place, rapes took place on both sides of the border, the Red Cliff line. And that scar is still continuing. I don't find any place, whether it is Tamil Nadu or anywhere else, where this divide is not leading to some sort of a riot or something like that. Gentlemen, the entire thing is again comes down to what I said in my last video on Manipur is the constitution of India. The first thing, if you want to do away with all this thing, is to do away with all forms of reservations. That's the first thing. That why? Because this compartmentalizes a society, and we don't want compartments in any society. Let it be a meritocracy throughout, number one. Number two, the state has to deal with a firm hand with all these anti-national characters. Now, if you remember, there was a agitation in Shaheen Bagh and carried on for months, and the government was tolerating it. In fact, there was rioting there in Shaheen Bagh when President Donald Trump was in India. Who's responsible for it? I don't think we can hold the rioters responsible. The government allowed the riots to take place. Then we had the agitation by the farmers. That also continued for months, and the farmers having a ball, the rich ones sitting in the air-conditioned tents and having a gay time. And the agitation was being allowed by the government, and the government withdrew the laws also, and still the BJP couldn't win any seats in Punjab. Gentlemen, we must bear in mind that India is passing through a very critical crisis. We have a sizable minority, 15%, France has 10%, and they held the nation to ransom. In India, we have a saving grace that this 15% is not a monolith unit. There are so many other sects. There are Bengali Muslims, Kerala Muslims, Madras Muslims, UP Muslims. Though they are all Muslim, but their culture and ethos is different, I don't think they can all unite together and create that sort of a mayhem and arson which was created in France. So that is the saving grace we have here. But gentlemen, one has to beware. You remember the child who was crying wolf, wolf all the time, and when the wolf really came, nothing could be saved the child. Gentlemen, now we have to be very careful on this issue. It is up to the government, the political leadership. Gandhi and Nehru could have done it, but they failed by accepting partition. But that's done and gone now. You can't put it back. Gentlemen, we have a very sizable minority, and it's important to integrate that into the Indian culture and ethos. And one step is the uniform laws of all types for everybody, and doing away with all reservations totally. If these two things are done, a major step would have been taken. I will close now and wish that you subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, come back for more. In the meanwhile, I'll say Jai Hind, glory to India, look after yourself, take care, bye-bye.